Welcome to the webinar titled Building on Your Lot. Hello, my name is Glade Polson, President of Paragon Homes of Idaho, and I welcome you to this webinar. Thank you for taking the time to join us. The objective of this webinar is to simplify all the seemingly overwhelming amount of bite-sized tasks and details required to build your home your way. You know the way it suits your family better than anyone. So your situation or lifestyle is at the heart of what we're trying to accomplish here. We take all these hundreds of required details or tasks and simplify it into 6 manageable steps. Building a home on your lot should not be an overwhelming or a daunting feat. We believe that it can be, in fact should be, an exciting and doable project. So we attempt to take all of our empirical knowledge and experience and simplify it so that you feel inclined to take it on. Step 1. A great house is like a great novel. It needs to be well thought out to fascinate or engage the people who live in it or visit the home. Stephen R. Covey, in his book titled The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, devoted an entire chapter on what I am calling Step 1. Begin with the end in mind. As builders, we follow a blueprint. All the details of a house, a skyscraper, or superhighway, whatever, are called out in the blueprint. Often when there are questions about a plethora of situations, you'll see bodies huddled around blueprints seeking answers to their questions. But before the blueprint was created, that structure, or in this case, your home, was created in the mind first. Everything is first created in the mind, then placed on blueprints, then submitted to municipalities for design and code requirements before the very first spade of dirt is ever turned. So the first step again is begin with the end in mind. Just today I sat down with some people and they wanted a double-headed shower in the master bathroom, a dual-person bathtub in the master, and a 25 by 18 master bedroom in order to fit their custom-made bedroom furniture. In the center of the house, they wanted the vaulted ceilings to go side to side versus front to back. The fireplace was to be 25 feet wide with some alcoves to fit some heirloom furniture on both sides of the fireplace. So we sat down on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and started to sketch out the layout of the home with all of the details. Several hours later, I was sitting in front of the architect with all of these details, all of these notes, and trying to get it just the way the folks wanted. This is where it all begins. After I listen to what the customer wants and what is important to them, we begin to create the working document that eventuates into the blueprint. Which brings us to step 2. The great philosopher and teacher, Emerson, teaches us, and I quote, "The ancestry of every action is a thought," end of quote. Therefore, step number 2 is to build the blueprint, to take those thoughts, impressions, and details that are so important to you and expand upon them. Initially, I sit down with you and take copious notes, trying very hard to listen to what matters most to you, sketch them out on a piece of paper, and try to create something that draftsman or architect can use to help them create some organization to all these notes and collaboration that we do. I know a lot of terms and technical vernacular that enables the person working on the blueprint that you might not know, and together we try to get it close to what you want. Have it in your mind, or what you have in your mind and hope to convey. This is a process, and sometimes we get it pretty close, and sometimes it takes us a few additional meetings or collaboration before we get it right, but nonetheless we desire to please. If it takes 2 times or 20, we'll get it right. Once the draftsman has nailed down the outside look of the house, known as the elevations, and has the floor plan right with proper square footages, we're ready to have the draftsman enter and complete the blueprints with a lot of the details that we've been talking about. Step number 3 is develop the scope of work. So after step number 1 of beginning with the end in mind and step number 2, creating the blueprint, step number 3, developing the scope of work, is the details that can and will be discussed along the way. I have what I call a start sheet that we can talk about and discuss while the floor plan and elevations are being developed. that go into great detail on all the features you want in the home, such as door heights, door widths, door styles, meaning 6-panel or 2-panel, paint grade or stain grade, hardware finishes like brushed nickel or oil rub bronze, ceramic tile shower surrounds, or fiberglass. These kinds of details that reflect the personality or look and feel that you want in your home. What style of cabinets do you want? Raised panel or recessed? Modern or traditional? This is what will go out to all the different subcontractors who bid out the jobs. And what you put into the house is paramount in determining the price of the bid that we get back from the subcontract. This really helps nail down the exact price of the house. The scope of work, or start order, is critical in determining the end price. Most of the time you get what you pay for. Any builder can build a cheaper house or an upgraded house. It's all a matter of the scope of work details. If you just send out the plans to the subcontractors and say, hey, give me a bid, well, they're going to go the cheapest allowable way to cover the code requirements. And that's exactly how your home will look. So the tighter the scope of work that we put together, the better and more rock solid the prices and bids will be. And this, by the way, significantly reduces the amount of surprises and conflicts that arise and have created a lot of the contention and frustration between builders and buyers in the past. You don't want it, and I don't want it. Step number 4, budget, contract, and financing. Now that your blueprints are completed, scope of the work defined, and bids have been sent out and the budget established, you can go to your financial institution and get the financing, if needed, and put it in place. We start by filling out what is known as a RE22 form. It is a pre-sale of new construction contract. This is a standard form contract available from the Idaho State Real Estate Commission. It's a 15-page document that covers nearly all the details imaginable. It has been time-tested to cover both buyer and seller. This spells out all that we have talked about. The blueprint is signed and dated. The scope of materials and scope of work details are discussed, and we have hard numbers from subcontractors in order to finish the house the way you want it. Budget's done, contract's done, and now it's time to talk about financing. If you need financing, there are 4 different ways in order to obtain what we call construction financing. Number 1 is cash. If you have cash, then we simply go to the title company. The title company holds it in escrow. The total amount of payments and the funds required on a draw schedule, predetermined draw schedule. The title company disperses those monies to the builder in the predetermined manner and collects all the lien waivers so that everyone's protected. Number 2, what's known as a one-time close. Here's where only a few lenders have what is known as a one-time close. Based on the contract, scope work, appraisals, and whatnot, the lender literally closes the loan up front, meaning they close it before the work ever begins. You, the buyer, know exactly what the loan amount is, the interest rate, and when your payments begin. The loan is literally closed up front, and only builders with a good history with a bank that offers these kinds of one-time close can get these loans. No construction loan is needed, as the draws are dispersed and the builder orders progress payments on a prescribed method similar to the title company details noted in the first step, cash segment. Number 3, construction loan with a long-term takeout commitment from the lender. Here the builder gets the construction loan in the builder's name and gets a sizable non-refundable down payment so that if the buyer does not close on the long-term loan for whatever reason, then the builder has a 5 to 10% down payment based on the contract to cover for any marketing expenses or selling expenses that they might incur if the person doesn't close on the house. This is very common and is a bit risky for the builder because, again, the financing is in the builder's name, the liability is in his or her name, and the buyer has no commitment to buy until after the house is completely done. Number 4, exactly the same as I just discussed, only the buyer gets the construction loan in their name and pays the builder on a preset draw schedule, and then once the house is complete, The homeowner then will take out a long-term loan that pays off the construction loan. All these options are available, and we will discuss that early on in the process so that when the contracts are made up, we know exactly which one of these four options that you're going to go with. Step number 5, the actual building process. Once all the paperwork is done, the financing or disbursement schedules are outlined at the title company and contracts, blueprints are agreed upon and signed, then the actual work begins. Building permits are gathered. Plans must be submitted to the city or state entity for review and approval. And in many cases, homeowner association plan submittal and colors and whatnot need to be submitted and approved before building begins. But at that point, then the building permits are gathered, sewer, water, and electrical fees are paid as the first step. A ton of work, effort, and communication has been done getting to this stage. Now it's all about execution of the blueprints and the scope of work. Start orders are sent out and communication between the builder and the subcontractors begin. Scheduling by the builder becomes more like a conductor of a symphony than anything. The communication and relationship with the subcontractors, the sequence of events that happen, what comes first, how long it takes, and lining up subcontractors to follow behind is critical in maintaining a tight and aggressive schedule. I have a saying that goes like this: if I'm putting my name and reputation on this house or on this experience for you as a home buyer, then I'm going to have my fingerprints all over it. Practically every day I will be on site, seeing, communicating with the subs, all the discussions and expectations that you and I have made in the process and what we've contracted to do. As a builder, seeing, communicating with subs, all the discussions and expectations you have and what the contract says that I as a builder am supposed to deliver. This is critical, and quite honestly, I love this stage. This is the one I like the best. A lot of builders stay in their offices and don't really frequent the homes that often, but at this stage, I'm very much involved. I love this stage. I enjoy the hustle and bustle of the building process. Step number 6, the walkthrough. Once the home is complete and the certificate of occupancy is done, I like to do what I call the punch list. I like to use my experience and do this punch list and get what should be done, so that when we have a walkthrough with the home buyer, it's cleaned and paint touched up and it's technically done by my standards. But the final verdict is you, the buyer. Is it exactly what you had in your mind and what we discussed? Everything your desires and understandings have come to fruition. Are you ready to close on the house? And normally we have a few items, very few, but if we do have a few items, then we go ahead and close, and I have 2 to 3 days in order to complete any items on the list. Our goal at Paragon Homes is a happy customer. Our goal is 100% satisfaction. A good, happy customer is worth tens of thousands of dollars in advertising. So, in review, step number 1, begin with the end in mind. Step number 2, create the blueprint. Step number 3, develop the scope of work. Step number 4, budget, contract, and financing. Step number 5, the actual building process. And step number 6 is the walkthrough, the closing and walkthrough. Well, we thank you for taking the time to listen to this webinar. If your dream is to build a new home, I would love to talk to you. I would love to earn your business. Whether you might be interested in one of our homes already built or would like to have us build one of our homes or your home on your lot, that's what we do. I'd love the opportunity to sit down and talk. And by the way, if you're out of town or out of state, then let's have a video chat, an iChat or video conferencing talk of some sort. Let's get to know each other. Let's start to begin that working relationship together. So I thank you again for your time, and I look forward to serving you and helping you in the future. Thank you.